Now, it's also important to realize that even though spiritual inquiry begins as finding out who we're not, that is not where spirituality ends. That's not where self-inquiry ends. Because there's also the necessity of what I call the great inclusion. So after we have subtracted ourselves, pulled our identity out of thought and belief and personality and ego, simply by seeing that there is something more primary, you see, simply by seeing that there's something more primary, identity starts to come out of them and eventually rests in awareness itself. Now, of course, awareness is just a word. We should not let the mind fixate on an idea that says, I am awareness. That idea may be useful, but that idea also is a limiting fixation. It's much more freeing to identify yourself as awareness, much more freeing than to identify yourself as a thought form, or an ego, or a personality. It's much more inclusive to realize that you are awareness, because then you're free of who you thought you were. And also, it's also freeing to see that everybody else is awareness too. But we should also not get stuck in a new concept, in a new way of identifying ourselves necessarily simply as awareness. Because another word for awareness could be spirit. Because awareness itself is something that has no form, no shape, no color. It has no gender. It has no age. It has no beliefs. And awareness itself is also of the nature of spirit. Spirit simply means, we could say, a beingness, a sense of aliveness, an awareness that has no shape, no form, no color, no gender. It's transcendent of all that. That is spirit. That within us, which transcends all of our form. So when I'm transitioning from using a concept called awareness to a concept called spirit, simply because spirit becomes a much more useful concept in what I want to talk about next. Now, the way of inclusion, we start to notice that awareness or spirit, if you look in your experience, you'll see that for yourself, that awareness itself or spirit is not resisting thought. So there's thought, but awareness isn't resisting thought. There's feeling, but awareness is not resisting feeling. There's a personality, there's an ego there, that awareness or spirit is not in resistance to personality or ego. It's not trying to change you. It's not trying to alter anything. And so when you start to notice that there is this presence of awareness within you, this presence of awareness that you actually are, and then you start to notice that this presence of awareness is not trying to change your humanness. It's not trying to alter you. Just as important as not trying to alter others. It's something that's totally inclusive. It's a state of being where everything is okay simply the way it is. Which paradoxically is actually what the ego personality always needed to come into harmony and peace. The ego personality always needed to come into a direct experiential contact with a presence or force that wasn't trying to change it. It's an amazing revelation for a human being to realize that their true nature as awareness of spirit, their true nature is not trying to change their human nature. That allows the human nature to rest. to no longer feel separate from its source, when it realizes that its source is not trying to alter it. Then our humanness starts to rest. We start to feel a unity within ourselves, where we're not divided within ourselves. Because ultimately there is no dividing line between awareness spirit and ego personality. There's really no separation between the two. When we start to let go into awareness or spirit, we start to recognize that that's who and what we really are. We start to see that everything in existence is actually simply a manifestation of spirit. It's an expression of spirit. Whether it's the chair you're sitting on, or the floor you're lying on, or the bed you're lying on, the shoes you wear, the floor you walk on, everything's an expression of spirit. The trees outside, the sky. And in the same way, that body that you call you, the mind, ego, personality, everything's an expression of spirit. Now, when our identification is caught in these various forms, that's suffering. Then we feel separate. But when through inquiry and meditation, our identity starts to come back to its home ground as awareness spirit itself, then everything is included. Everything starts to be seen as a manifestation of spirit, including personality, including your humanness, with all of its strengths, all of its weaknesses, all of its funny little quirks. That your humanness is in no way separate from the divinity within you that you actually are. And I call this the way of inclusion because from the level of spirit, from our truest nature, we start to realize that our truest nature as spirit includes our whole human experience. That actually human body, mind, and personality is nothing but an extension of spirit. It's the way spirit moves in the world of time and space. That's what a human body mind is. It's an extension of spirit in time and space. And so I would, of course, suggest that you not try to understand what I'm speaking about in the mind, because it's not really understandable in the mind. It's something that resides at a deeper point, a deeper place within ourselves. Something else understands, something else knows.